Hi everyone, so welcome to your kind of indoor cycling tutorial. First of all, you can meet Bear. Bear, come here. Say hi. This is my dog Bear. He's the best. He's joining me today. So first thing you're going to want to do as an instructor is help individuals fit their bike. So there are kind of three areas that you fit on a bike. It'll vary depending on the type of bike that you have, but most bikes have kind of similar makeup. So the first is just how high or low your handlebars are. And every part of it, you're just going to turn the little device, pull it out, and then you can adjust the height accordingly. When you're fitting a bike, make sure that you lock that after so that it's as secure as possible. For your handlebars, recognize that the biggest trick is going to be that if you're new to biking or indoor cycling feels really uncomfortable for you, it's going to be easier the higher your handlebars are. So just note that when you're kind of preparing your own bike. Higher is easier, lower is maybe a little bit more advanced if you want to think about it that way. The second part's first, you just are going to adjust the height of your bike. The best way to do this in a quick fit, and you'll have a form that kind of helps you with this, is you're going to either go by kind of that top of your hip, or what I like to do is actually line up my hip and at the mid, so like if it was on this side, at the mid thigh, that's where you're going to actually want your seat to be. So you're going to take it, loosen it, you'll pull it out, and have it be at that height. So what I always recommend is that you just note where your bike is, because individuals, if they know like, oh, I'm 5, I can see 5 holes or whatever it is, then they don't have to fit their bike every time. They just kind of set it to what they know they already want. And the last one is just how close or far away your seat is. And obviously this is just mostly going to be based on how long your torso is. So same thing, you just kind of choose how close or far away you want it to be. For me, I need it a little bit closer. Okay, so that's essentially your bike fit, is getting those 3 areas set up. When you're sitting on your bike, to know if you've set it up correctly, the goal is going to be that your leg is extended when the pedal's down, but your knee is not completely straight. So you can still have a slight bend in your knee. When you're pedaling, if you think of having your feet balanced, so like both feet are at the same height from the ground, when your knee is over your toes, let's just switch sides so you can see that easier. So when your knee's over your foot, you actually want your knee to line up with kind of the mid-foot. So if you were to take a plumb line, so something from the knee, a string down, it would touch the middle of your foot, not kind of over your toes or anything like that. And the principle is essentially the same as a squat, right? We're just trying to decrease tension at the knee. So that's essentially a bike fit. There are obviously different handle grips you can take. So as you're cycling, know that this right here is going to be your tension or your resistance. So we like to make a lot of comparisons in cycling to like outdoor cycling, like real life on a bike cycling. But obviously the resistance up is opposite of what you would do if you were on a real bike, if you were going, say, up a hill. But to mimic a hill, you're going to turn the resistance up. That's going to increase the challenge or the tension of the bike. Turning that to the negative is going to stop that. To brake your bike, and this is important, if you're pedaling and you want to stop, rather than trying to get your feet to do the stopping for you, just press on this, your resistance knob, and it'll actually brake for you. Some have an extra little red kind of attachment to it, and that's what you press to brake your bike. So this one stops pretty easily, but there are some that are really well oiled, and so it's going to end up stopping a lot easier with that knob as opposed to trying to just getting your feet to stop. So that's essentially a bike fit. Handle positions really vary. It's usually just whatever feels most comfortable for you. But you're going to want to make sure that your back is straight so you're not kind of hunched over like this while you're riding. And you also don't want to be like really up, right? So you're going to be in kind of a hunched over position. And as you're riding, to make sure that fit works for you, it's really just about what feels comfortable. So the quick fit is a chance to get everything probably pretty close to where it's comfortable, but also feel free to adjust things if you need to while you're riding. What else? So there are a lot of different types of techniques that you can use while you're riding. And I'm sure some of you have been to classes where you're, lifting weights and you're doing push-ups while you're riding, that sort of thing. I do not recommend that type of training. Indoor cycling as a mode is a cardio exercise and a lower body exercise. And my opinion is just let it be that. So there are plenty of other opportunities to do push-ups. If you wanted, you could design a class where people can, do push-ups after class or something like that. But for indoor cycling, really you don't want people doing things that you couldn't do on a normal bike outside. So one thing that people will do to help train is they'll do like single leg cycling. That's obviously fine, right? That's going to be something that is kind of prepping someone's legs to get stronger. That one leg is pulling the whole resistance. But other than that, like if you go to a class and they're having you like dance on your bike or you have weights involved or something like that, recognize that some people teach that way, and some trainings actually teach you to teach that way. I was trained by Schwinn, and the Schwinn organization is kind of where I got my philosophy. But just keep it a lower body exercise. There's no reason to do push-ups and things like that on a bike. We can find reasons to do push-ups in every other type of exercise that we do. So when it comes to train, there's a lot of different types. I'll give you a paper that kind of highlights that. But it's just what you would expect on a normal road. So you have flats where the resistance doesn't change, right? The incline is not changing. And so you might be working for speed on that. So you're gonna have a flat or a sprint. There's hills that you can do. So hills can either be like an interval, so you're kind of rolling through hills, or you have like one really, really big climb to the top. When you do sprinting or any kind of climb that feels more anaerobic, just recognize that anaerobic means you do not have access to oxygen during that exercise. So if you're doing an anaerobic sprint, it should not last very long because someone doesn't have access to oxygen during that exercise. So maybe you're doing it for 10 seconds really hard, and then you're going back to maybe vigorous to moderate intensity. But if you think of like a chart from 0 to 10, 10 would be anaerobic, 0 is what I'm doing right now. If you have kind of 1 to 4, that's considered low intensity. 5 to maybe 7 is moderate, and then anything above that is considered vigorous or anaerobic. And so it really helps when you're teaching to actually cue the numbers for people. So when you're talking about intensity, you can talk a lot about how someone feels, and a lot of that can be either an RPE scale from 6 to 20, or it can be a scale of kind of intensity on a bike. So you could say, I want all of us working at a 5 right now. And one thing that comes up, so modifications are a little bit trickier or more vague with indoor cycling because you don't know how hard someone's already working, right? So obviously an injury might stop someone from being safe to ride a bike, right? Like if their knee is hurting really bad while they're riding, maybe cycling isn't the best exercise for them. That's kind of just fact of life, right? But if you want to offer modifications throughout, usually your modifications are going to be something in the realm of work at an intensity that you can work at, right? You get to choose how hard this is today. If you like, let's increase the intensity, or if you need to, feel free to take the intensity down, the resistance down a little bit. Beyond that, you don't know what someone's doing. There is a couple of ways, like if you see someone and their toe is guiding kind of their push into their cycle, you can usually know that they're not working as hard as someone who has to press with their heel to dig. So its proper technique is actually to guide with your heel down, as opposed to, you can see here, my toe guiding me. It's the heel that should be guiding you. So think about that when you're cycling, when you're helping folks, to just help them kind of understand what it means to really feel the intensity. Oh, we're getting a visitor. Hi, Hampton. Do you want to say hi to my class? Say hi. How's it going? Good. I'm just going to keep teaching for a couple minutes. Yeah?
I could do whatever you
You can hang out with me for a second. So when you're, don't go on that wheel because I'm going to cycle. So when you're cycling, those terrains that you're thinking of, you can also do jumps. So when you're riding, it can be like you're here, then you're going to jump up, 1, 2, 3, 4, down, 2, 3, 4, up, 2, 3, 4, down, 2, 3, 4. So that's just another example. Oh, thank you. Yep. That's just another example of kind of ways you can vary it. But with your jumps, make sure you're not doing less than 2 counts. So if I'm here, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. That's not a very effective way to ride. So I would recommend at least 4 kind of beats with each jump that you do, is what we call them. So I need you to be quiet. So that's essentially indoor cycling. Like I said, I have some forms for you that will help you understand kind of what to do with your design. But if you have any questions, feel free to let me know. Thanks.